Anderson, Chalmers, Convery, Devlin, Fagan, Lockhart, Loudon. We have apologies from Councillor McLachlan and Councillor Walker is substituting. We have present Councillor Robb and we have apologies from Councillor Ross. And I'll hand back to the Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I come to item 1, declarations of interest? Are there any declarations of interest? I don't see any. Can I come then to item 2, which are the minutes of the previous meeting? They are submitted for approval as a correct record. Are there any questions on the minutes? I'm not seeing any questions on the minutes, so can we agree those as a correct record?
Agreed.
We're agreed. Come now to item 3, which is a report on the Council Connect Plan, a Q4 progress report. It's in pages 9 to 50 of your pack, and it will be presented by Neil Reid. Neil.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so this is a report, Q4 report on the Council Plan Connect. It's a report that we bring regularly to the forum. We bring a report at Q2, and this is a Q4 version. It follows a standard format. So in terms of background, Connect reporting derives from measures which are in resource plans. So across all resource plans, there are 256 measures and actions in total. And at the beginning of the year, a selection of those is identified as being significant and worth reporting up to the Connect level. So there are 61 of those, and it's those 61 that are reported on in this report. There's a summary of progress against those 61 measures at 4.5. There's a table there which shows the numbers which are blue, green, amber, red, or to be reported later. And the explanation of what those terms mean is in the table at 4.4. So you'll see that overall 80% of measures are either green or blue, which means they've concluded as we would expect, and 16% are red or amber, which shows that there's been some slippage or they perhaps didn't go quite as we had anticipated. The remainder of the covering report has a series of tables which show some highlights and key achievements under each of the Council Plan outcomes. All of the 61 measures are contained within Appendix 1, which is from our improved reporting system. So each measure is shown there together with some narrative explaining what has happened over the year. There are 2 other appendices to this report. Appendix 2 shows the change in measure status from Q2. So if a measure is changed, say, from green to red, or the other way around, red to green, then there's a bit of an explanation as to why that change has occurred. And the 3rd appendix puts the overall reporting of the Council Plan into a wider context by showing the strategic LGBF indicators that we have selected as being most relevant to the Council Plan. So those are shown there to show you the wider context for Connect. But it should be noted that the LGBF measures relate to a different time period because of the lag in reporting LGBF. So essentially that is the Connect report, and the recommendations are to note the different elements that I've spoken about. That's to say the performance against the 61 measures, the highlights and achievements as noted in the covering report, the change in measure status achieving scrutiny in Appendix 2, and the LGBF subset in Appendix 3 to note the content of those. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Neil. Can I ask if there are any questions in this report? Could you please indicate now, and I will come to Kirsten Robb.
Thank you. It's on page 19 about the road casualties, please. On the I know that's part of a national trend as well, but the administration were looking to put in a Safe Routes and Communities programme. I was just wondering if there's an update on that. And the aim is to reduce the proportion of children coming to school by car by 10%. And wondering if there's any updates on when that programme will be announced, and also where are we with reducing the number of children coming to school by car?
Okay, now we'll see who can pick up these questions, but if we don't have anyone here, we'll come back. But I think we've got Stuart Laird here from Roads who might be able to help.
Thanks, Chair.
In relation to our Safer Routes package of works, we're just in the process of finalising those, and I would hope to make them available fairly soon. I'm anticipating that within the next 2 or 3 weeks. In relation to our statistics in terms of how children get to and from schools in particular, we are about to receive the annual update, which is it's a national statistic now. So we'll get that usually in October, and we usually present the findings of that to the Council's Road Safety Forum, and that allows us to look at the trend, particularly over the last year, but we can then review how that's looked at over a longer period of time as well. So again, that will be reported to the Council's Road Safety Forum at some point in the future.
Okay, thank you. I've got another couple. Yeah, is that okay? On page 26, we talk about the attendance, and obviously I can see that's an improvement as well on previous years. But I guess 1 in 10, nearly 1 in 10 children not attending secondary school is still quite high. I'm not in education, but I'm just wondering if you can share any reasons or research has been done to why that's happening and how we're addressing the needs of those 10%.
Okay, I'll see if we've got anyone that can pick that up. I would draw attention to the fact that we have, just in advance of the new term starting, launched our new attendance campaign, but I've got Gary Lambie here, things can pick that up. Just bear with us a sec here, Gary. I think you're... Can we try that microphone again? Okay, there might be an issue with... hang on. I think there's a delay, so just bear with us. We've got your microphones now working. Okay,
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as I was saying, the challenge of secondary attendance is one that is faced by councils across Scotland, as we continue to monitor it very closely post-COVID. As Chair mentioned, we have just recently launched a new set of guidance alongside a campaign for all our families, children and young people to encourage attendance, but more so to get to the causes of absence within our schools. So we're confident that that will see some meaningful and sustainable progress over the next 2 to 3 years. Just statistically, our recent attendance stats show that we are performing reasonably well. We sit, I think, 16th out of 32 local authorities and second highest within our own family group in terms of that particular metric. So the overall trend is encouraging, but we have our new guidance and campaign to help with that.
Thank you. I was going to ask, you mentioned about the causes of it. Is that part of the campaign you're trying to do, that research? Okay, I'll have a look at that in more detail and share that. Thank you. The last one, that okay? Yeah. Okay, and page 48, it talks about the drop in living wage employers. Can I confirm that, I think it was a Scottish Government thing, that all contracts and grants now from public authorities should be paying the living wage? Can I confirm that that is happening?
Okay, I think Alison, and we've got Jackie as well, but Alison?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, that is correct. In terms of grants, we're looking for employers to aspire to be living wage within a set time be a living wage employer. And you're right, we have seen a decline in employers either taking up the offer or withdrawing from the scheme. And that's for a number of reasons, which we're trying to sort of drill down to. But part of that is to do with the economy and, just trying to keep businesses going. And what we are keen to see is that employers maintain their staff, and we'd rather they didn't pay the living wage if it's actually meant somebody was still in a job, and we would work with them to come back into that living wage scheme. So there's a number of conversations taking place. Again, what we're seeing in Lanarkshire, both north and south, is replicated across the country as well.
Okay, and Jackie, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just to clarify, the instructions from the Scottish Government is if they're passing a grant to us and we're passing it on to somebody else, then we must ensure that that recipient is paying the living wage. That's one of the conditions that we have to sign up for. That doesn't apply to our general revenue grant that we get from the government. It's just these specific grants that we have to sign up to these conditions on.
But you're saying we're not doing that in some cases because of specific circumstances, or are we doing it in all grants? You're saying some aren't paying it just now, or just to clarify that?
We have an obligation, if we're accepting that grant, that we need to make sure that the recipients are paying that living wage if they want to continue to receive that grant.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Could I come now to Katie Loudon?
Thanks, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Just a couple of quick questions, Chair, that are mostly around timing. I know that the timing of the reports we get here can not sometimes marry up to things that are happening in the outside world. It's about on page 11, so we've got stats there on the SQA examination results for the 24 exam diet as in published in August 24. We're obviously now a couple of weeks out from this year's results published. I wonder if we've got any sort of initial idea of where those are sitting in comparison to what's on the report here.
I think we'll come back to Gary.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The councillor's absolutely right. We are currently just reviewing the latest data for the current cohort. Overall performance is good, it's strong, but we're just getting into the details of that. We published some recently, I think, in the Lanarkshire Review, just to give a bit more detail, but obviously that work continues as we drill down. But overall, there is definitely some assurance to be taken that our performance continues to be strong.
Good stuff, thank you. Can I have another question, Chair? Just it's pretty much along the same sort of lines. It's on page 24, so it's one of the measures that's amber just now. It's talking about pupils entering positive destinations. Now, given that we're in August just now and it says discussions are taking place during April, so I'm presuming this was written either slightly before or around April, about identifying young people who are in negative destinations and identifying any lessons that can be learned from that. I just wondered if that's something we can have an update on either just now, or that's something that can be brought back at another time. It does seem there's been a big gap between saying there were going to be discussions in April and then obviously us sitting in August.
Yeah, okay. I'll see, is there any update you can provide now? If not, I think we could maybe circulate something in between committee meetings and potentially bring it back, but I'll pass over to Gary to pick that up.
Yeah, thanks again, Chair. Yeah, we can certainly bring something back. It's just worth noting on that measure, you'll note there it is initial destination, so as well as the point you raise about the timing of the data can be a wee bit non-coterminous, if you like, around this. That particular statistic relates to the immediacy, the information that we get when our young people leave school, and subject to a bit of change, usually in the right direction, once we have a fuller picture of where the young people have gone.
Okay. Can I ask if there are any other questions? No. Can I draw attention to something? I think these papers are frequently, if Tom Little were here, would describe them as a can opener when it comes to discussing various areas of performance across the council. One of the areas that I wanted to pick up on the paper is on page 20, is that the percentage of the road network under the road condition index that's been identified as sort of requiring attention. That's marked as red just now. And that's obviously an issue that we knew was coming, because if we want to see improving roads, we have to be investing more in our roads, and that's not been possible until this year. So I would like to thank all those councillors who supported the administration's budget early in the year and the additional £12 million of investment that we're seeing in our roads, which should improve the quality of our roads. And I look forward to seeing updates in that between now and the end of the term to see how that investment is panning out and how it's improving the condition of our roads and how we appear on that roads condition index. Thank you. Okay, I will now come to item 4, which is, in terms of the recommendations there, can I just ask if we agree that report? And can I come now to item 4, which is on the annual performance spotlights, and Neil Reid is going to speak to this item as well. Neil.
Yep, thanks, Chair. So, as part of the Council's duty in terms of best value, we have to report our performance and we have to report performance in a variety of ways. And we've just had the Q4 report on Connect, but another aspect of our performance is reported through what we call annual performance spotlights, and that's the subject of this report. The idea here is that we are preparing some performance information that is kind of accessible, easy to understand, and is kind of at a glance and it's accessible, and it's also balanced reporting, so it shows some of the Council's areas where things are going well, but there's also areas where things are perhaps not going quite as well. So the performance spotlights take the form of some infographics which illustrate some statistical information and they show trend information as well as clear indication as to whether our performance is improving or staying the same or declining, and also whether targets are being met. So in many respects, they contain similar information to the Connect report that you've just seen, but it's just in a more user-friendly and accessible format. So the draft spotlights are contained in Appendix 1 for Forum to review and agree. In addition to the spotlights, we will continue to prepare a wide range of performance information which we publish on the Council's website in order to give that full, comprehensive and rounded picture of Council performance. The last section of the report covers some of the environment in terms of what we report and why, in terms of the Accounts Commission issuing guidance and direction, which tells us what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to go about reporting our performance. The most recent direction was issued in December 2024, but will not come into effect for a while yet, but it's just to assure the Forum that we will continue to make sure that our performance information complies with that guidance going forward. So the recommendations of the report are to note the content of the annual performance spotlights, and also to note that after the Forum today, they will be uploaded onto the Council's website well in advance of the deadline that we are required to do it by, which is the 31st of March 2026. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Neil. Can I ask if there are any questions in that report? And could I come to Katie Loudon?
Thanks, Chair. My question is just on whether we're getting any, the kinds of feedback we're getting on these. I really like the idea of the spotlights in principle. I like the idea of putting things into a graphical format. That's another way that people can access information. I must say, when I got the report and I glanced over them, particularly so on 55, where you've got some of the, page 55 in the report, with some of the information about young people. I know that it can be really difficult to represent things graphically, but it took me a second to work out what the sort of relevance of some of the graphics were. I know these are quite difficult things to represent in graphic form. And then on page 56, some of them, so the ones at the top essentially have a sort of paragraph of information before them. So I was quite interested to see that at 4.5 in the report, that's page 52, it said we've got performance and improvement email address, which is monitored to gather feedback to help us improve this. I just wondered what kind of feedback are we getting to that? Because it seems to me if we wanted a higher volume of feedback, then we should be showing those to people and asking what they think rather than waiting for people to come in and comment. I wondered if we are getting any feedback on these, and how do we know that these are helping? How do we know that these are something that members of the public are accessing, that our partners are accessing? And do we gather any information on how, for example, partnership organisations are actually using them?
Neil?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. I mean, that's a very good question. When the infographics were first designed, we did some focus group work in order to pitch them, I suppose, at the right level and to get some views as to whether it's a sort of thing that people would find interesting and useful. So those were generally positive. However, it's not something that we do every year. It was when we introduced the infographics, so it's certainly something we could look to do again. As the report notes, we do have monitoring. We monitor the if you like, the hits on our website, the performance pages. But again, we wouldn't be looking at whether specific infographics are getting more hits than others, and a hit in and of itself probably isn't telling us whether someone liked it or not. But we do aim to ensure that the performance is getting an audience and that people are looking at it, and we do monitor the performance email to see if people have got specific suggestions to make. But I think the idea perhaps of going back and doing some further work in terms of asking people what they think of different elements of the performance offering is something that we can look into going forward. Thanks.
Great, thanks very much. I think that would be really valuable.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to bring in Paul Manning at this point.
Listen, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor Loudon. And listen, I wouldn't disagree with anything that Neil's just said or gone through, and I think there is merit in what we're talking about. It's maybe just to point out, sometimes it can be an issue of context. So what you've got is a report that's got all of these in it. And sometimes, and most times, we don't really use it in that way. What will happen is that, we would, for specific purposes, right? So, for example, the one we were talking about was education. For educational purposes or for social work, audiences, we would pull together the relevant indicators in an area, and they would go to an audience who would look at them in that context. So, you maybe get just a different picture than looking at all of these graphics in one go for every subject area. You would get a different perception than you would maybe looking at them specifically for social work, housing or education. The other thing that does happen with these, and the message I'm getting back, Councillor Loudon, is that on the whole this is well received and people do like getting this information in this format. We'll put things out on social media, and this lends itself to that sort of bite-sized information going out. On the whole, it seems to be well received, but I would agree with you, there's merit in looking at, in a wee bit more detail, the feedback that we get on this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I suppose I would add two things. One of them is just taking a little bit of a look at how we use social media just now in some of the platforms that we don't typically appear on or appear on as much, particularly with people kind of migrating away from X. But the other point is the next iteration of this plan is going to be here sooner than people realise. So I think it's useful to think about sort of all these issues as we start to pull together the draft of a plan for the following 5 years. Now, I've got a few questions, but I'll bring Katie Loudon back in at this point.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I put my hand down by accident. Yeah, just to pick up on your points about social media, I appreciate those points, Paul. I think it's the fact that when we look at what we've got in the report in front of us, so like at 4.3, it's talking about customers, communities and residents to going on to the council website to browse the information electronically. I don't think I've ever had a constituent tell me they're on just having a wee browse of the council website to look at this information. I think if we are sort of shifting more towards using specific parts of this information on social media, for example, or to highlight something, it would be good to have a wee bit more information about how we're doing that. But as the Chair's just said, there's obviously more to come in this area, and it would be good to have an update on that in the future and how it's been used.
Okay, thank you very much. Could I come now to Kirsten Robb?
Thank you. It was kind of a clarification to see if I'm reading this statistic right. Page 55, the gap in attendance between secondary pupils from the least and most deprived communities. If the target's 8% and it's gone up to 8.5%, does that mean the gap is increasing? In which case we've not met the target and the performance isn't improving. Just maybe I'm not reading it right or something. In the red on the top left of page 55.
Yeah, Gary?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, you are reading that right. There has been an error in that, which we've since picked up with Neil's team. That will be amended. Even though it is a fraction of a percent, the system seems to have picked up the increase in the gap as an increase in performance. So we will amend that, obviously just in the interest of complete transparency. But again, it is just worth noting that targets around that particular area of focus in relation to closing the poverty attainment gap tend to be stretch aims over a longer period, subject to minor fluctuations, which is fairly normal. But again, we are confident that we're heading in the right direction in terms of attendance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And could I come to Margaret Walker?
Thanks, Chair. I don't want to kind of repeat too much of what Paul says, but just to welcome the report, I think this format is excellent. And in a previous life, through a long association with working in consultation in relation to plans with community groups and different focus groups and forum, the evidence base that people prefer this is overwhelming. They don't want to be reading, 250, 300 pages of a report. I mean, I can glance at this and I can see what the position is with self-directed support and people managing their own care and how we're doing in relation to that in comparison to the target, just by quickly looking at the three figures. So the evidence is overwhelming that people like this format. And also if you're working, if you're going out to speak to groups and using visuals and sending this stuff beforehand, people are far more likely to be prepared and to actually be equipped to answer, to ask the relevant questions as well. So I think it's excellent. Obviously, yes, there will be, parts of it people might want to go into in more depth. That's fine, you can do that. But as I say, the evidence that this works in terms of communicating information better is actually overwhelming. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for those remarks. And could I come now to Richard Lockhart?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Brilliant. Yes, I agree. I think it's brilliant that the visual presentation here, for my simple brain, certainly makes a huge difference, and it's quick to pick it up. I tell you what I'm interested in is on page 57. Okay, it's really two charts on the right-hand side, one below the other, and I'm interested in whether I'm extrapolating the wrong thing or whether there's a linkage. It simply says number of jobs created or sustained as a direct result of economic development intervention has gone up dramatically from last year to this year, 646 versus 1071. Then the chart that interests me is increased value of sales generated by businesses as a direct result of this. It's fascinating, the fact that it's jolly nearly halved. And I'm just wondering what lies behind that number. Is it changes in employment regulations? Is it increased NI? Is it increased minimum wages? There's a lot of things that have changed in the last 12 months. And I'm just wondering, if someone can explain a bit more about the fact that we've doubled the number of people and halved the result.
Okay, I'll maybe come to Alison Brown to pick that up. Though I would say just this point that's come up a few times about timing, if I'm right, a lot of the latest round of changes probably came in sort of April 2025, and the kind of comparisons we've got here are 23, 24 and 24, 25 actually. But, so I am as fascinated as Richard is actually in an explanation of that, and I think Alison might be about to enlighten us, but I'll pass over to her just now.
Thank you, and I will try. I think you're right, Councillor. I think there is partly a timing issue. So on the increased value of sales generated by businesses as a direct result of economic development intervention, that relates specifically to where we have provided a business grant, and then as a result, that company has generated sales. So that's particular where that value has changed. In terms of numbers of jobs created or sustained as a direct result of economic development intervention, that's much wider than that. So that's not specifically about business grants. That's where we have had conversations and assisted businesses in terms of inward investment, in terms of growth, in terms of connections with Scottish Enterprise, etc. So there is two very different measures there, one much wider and one very much more focused on business support grants. and the sales thus generated from those particular businesses. I'm happy to do a deeper dive into that for you, and we can maybe come back and put a bit of narrative around both of those. But at a high level, that's the differences between the two.
Okay, thank you. I'm just thinking myself here, if there have been changes in policy around business grants, and there have been, I don't know if it would also include things like referring people to Business Loan Scotland, where there's been sort of dramatic changes, then you would expect to see that filter through in the figures. The figures maybe are telling us something about what's happening on the ground. But I think if we can maybe get a deeper dive and report back to the members, that would be useful. Anything further to add there, Richard?
I just, in terms of the deeper dive, I'm just interested to know, or if there is a trend developing from current policies, if you like, at the moment that we've seen over the last 12 months. I mean, there are inevitably some substantial effects on employment costs and all sorts of things like that. And I just wonder, if you like, behind the figures, how deep the dive can be and whether you can extrapolate anything maybe anyway. I don't know.
We will endeavour to try, I think, and we will see what we can report back between now and the next meeting. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
you. And I have Katie Loudon again, one other question here.
Thanks very much, Chair. Just wanted to round off a little bit what I was saying earlier. So we just had Councillor Walker there say twice, in fact, that the evidence is overwhelming, was the phrase. Evidence is overwhelming that these are working. Listen, I'd be delighted if these are. As I said earlier, I really like the idea when these were first introduced to us, and maybe there is evidence out there, but it's not being presented to us here in this paper. And actually, we were told earlier that there's no mechanism to formally gather any evidence of how these are working. So I would really hope that Councillor Walker is right and that these are useful. My point I would like to make, and just to underline again, it would be great if this could be looked at and we could have that assurance that we got earlier in the meeting that we're going to have a look beyond what happens with the initial focus groups and look at the way that these have been developed, so that we can definitely find out that they've been helpful for our partners, our partnership organisations, and for residents as well. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. No, I think that commitment has been given, and I don't want to speak for Councillor Walker, but I think her point was on the basis of our previous professional experience, this sort of graphic way of presenting information is sort of generally more well received than a more conventional format. I don't think she was commenting specifically on this. But these are all valuable points, and we'll take them on board as we look to progress our work in this area. Can we agree the report? Agreed. We are agreed. Can I come now to item 5, which is a report on the Accounts Commission's audit of best value for East Lothian and Renfrewshire councils? And can I ask Neil Reid to speak to this item? Neil.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So we have been bringing these reports to the forum for a while, really trying to show how recent council reports on best value have been panning out, and puts our own arrangements in terms of best value in a bigger context. So this particular one reports on East Lothian and Renfrewshire, both of which received their reports quite recently. In terms of East Lothian, it gets a relatively positive report overall, and the auditors are highlighting strengths in strategic and financial planning, community engagement, particularly around discussions when difficult decisions are having to be made, and steps that East Lothian have made to make sure they are consulting with employees, but they have to make sure that they broaden that out. In terms of Renfrewshire Council, they also get a positive report. They're a strong performer in relation to key indicators. They're also praised for their prudent financial management, though auditors do note that times are hard, and the council is going to have to do considerable work to make sure they continue to manage that, and also their commitment to a positive working culture. So in this report, the key findings of the Accounts Commission are shown for each of those councils. I won't go through them in detail, but there's a lot of very familiar messages in there for us, and essentially the recommendation of the report is to note the content. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask if there are any questions on this report? Don't see any questions, so can we agree to note the report?
Agreed.
Thank you. We will come to item 6 now, which is an update on our transformational reviews, and Jackie Taylor will speak to this item. Jackie.
Thank you, Chair. This is our regular report providing an update on our programme of reviews. There are 2 separate reports in this pack that will pick up on digital transformation and customer engagement. But if I take you to section 4 of the report on page 69, this provides an update on our cross-cutting transformational reviews. Firstly, procurement at section 4.2. We included within our 25-26 budget savings of £941,000 in relation to the outcome of better procurement. This review remains ongoing, and to date, at the time of writing this report, £371,000 of additional opportunities have been identified, and they're included across the page on table 1. We do expect, as the year goes on and the review goes on, to see more benefit coming out of this review, and that will be reported as part of our savings later in the year. At 4.4, we refer again to something I mentioned last time when I reported. This is about a trial of alternative bin supplies. There's a pilot going on around that at the moment, and we'll report back later in the year on that. And we're also engaged with Solace and the Improvement Service on their transformation programme as well, and that includes a work stream of procurement collaboration, and that's looking at waste, fleet and digital. Section 4.6 picks up a review on in-house and procured services. This review considers whether we can deliver in-house services that we currently procure. Previously shared with the forum the terms of reference for this review. Approximately 70 contracts were initially identified to review, and when reviewing whether these were possible to bring in-house, we managed to bring that number down to around 27 contracts, which are undergoing further consideration. Again, we'll pull back to this forum in November the outcome of that review. On page 71, section 4.9, in terms of our fleet review, we had a full report to the forum in June on fleet, and that found that progress has been made in returning the council fleet to pre-COVID levels. The report also noted that the vehicle replacement programme is moving forward, and there's greater use of telemetry data in terms of being efficient in our use of vehicles. Work continues around this space in looking at optimal lease periods for leased vehicles, reviewing our electric vehicles and how we bring those into our estate of vehicles, and also looking at pool car usage and rates as well. 4.14 picks up our organisational and management structure review. This is the review that's looking to balance between management and staff they oversee. We have reported savings as part of the 25-26 budget from this review, and phase 2 continues as we're looking at management and supervisory structures and whether they align to our preferred operating model. We do expect to identify savings for the coming year and beyond from this review, and again we'll report back the findings of that later in the year. And in relation to overtime, at the bottom of page 71, we do have resource action plans around overtime, and our personnel business managers are engaged with the resources and heads of service to enact these actions. They include ensuring that we have regular and recurring recruitment activity, and also that we're complying with our maximising attendance policies. Depot rationalisation is covered at 4.21. That is considered alongside our longer-term estates review that I'll pick up on a second. I mentioned a second ago that we do have 2 separate update reports in the pack, digital transformation and customer engagement, and we'll get to those later on in the agenda, but the resource-specific reviews are picked up at section 5 of the report. The third sector review is a partnership review that's taken forward discussions between ourselves and our local third sector. There's been workshops and events that have been taking place over the spring and summer, and that's looked at 3 areas: strategic engagement, fair funding and commissioning. The aim here is to produce a co-produced third sector partnership agreement and also a grants policy for the council. And work's ongoing to consolidate the outcome of these workshops, and we will report back to a later committee on the outcome of this work. Factoring is picked up at section 5.5 of the report, and a full review has been undertaken by Housing and Technical Resources in conjunction with support from APSI, and that's to look at informing a future direction and culture for factoring in the council and looking at a future service delivery model. The findings of this work's been consolidated, and again we'll be bringing that back to a relevant committee for approval in the coming months. Again, we'll keep this forum updated on progress on that. I mentioned the long-term estate strategy a second ago and the depot rationalisation element of that. The full review, you will recall we've shared the terms of reference on that in previous updates. The aim is to result in a 10-year estate strategy, and the aims are covered in the bullets at section 5.7. Section 5.8 covers the phases of the review, and an update on this review was presented to the Executive Committee in June on this review, and we've put a link into that paper for you in the contents of this item at 5.9. Work's continuing through the phases of data collection and identifying that 10-year delivery plan, and again we'll be updating the forum in due course with the outcome of that. The South Lanarkshire Leisure and Culture Commissioning Plan was provided to the Executive Committee in June, and that was agreed. Work is now continuing alongside South Lanarkshire Leisure and Culture officers in terms of reviewing and updating and streamlining the legal documentation that underpins the relationship with South Lanarkshire Leisure and Culture, and also a detailed performance framework being created. On the review around planning and regulatory services, the areas of work that were subject to review are detailed there in the bullets at 5.13. The review is expected to identify potential savings for 26-27, mainly from the annual increase in fees and also introduction of discretionary fees. Updates will be presented to the Planning Committee, and again we'll bring those back to the Forum for Information in November. And at 5.18 around property services, we reported to this forum in June a fuller report around this particular review, and that included the terms of reference and detailed the scope of the review. This review crosses over with the other reviews on our organisational and management structures review, and also fleet services. And again, I'll continue to report back to the forum on any other findings from this review. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour through the cross-cutting reviews and resource reviews that we're undertaking this year, and we're asking that the position on those are noted. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. There was a lot in that. Are there any questions? I'm not seeing any questions, so can I just say that I think it is useful when we see a report like this, and we've now seen a number of them come into this forum. We'll see more in the months ahead. But useful to see that, and to be able to demonstrate to Audit Scotland and to others that we're both tackling those long-term issues around SLLC commissioning, long-term estate strategy, but also that we are tackling the budget issues that we face, not simply through that conventional savings exercise, but actually people can now see those progressive choices that you're trying to make, or that we are trying to make as a local authority around our management structures, around in-housing, and around our approach to procurement. And that, to me, is where the challenge, confronting the challenges that we face and that community wealth building agenda come together. Okay. I don't see any other questions, so can we agree to note that report? We are agreed. We'll come now to item 7, which is a report on digital transformation, an update that will be presented by Murray Husband. Murray.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. So this report is brought before you to provide an update on the digital transformation review. Section 3 of the report provides a background into the review and is to draw the attention of the forum to 3.4, which gives the 3 key areas of focus around business systems and processes, workforce productivity and customer engagement. And note that the customer engagement element of this is provided, a separate report is provided later in the agenda. Section 4 provides an update in terms of more specific progress within the review. If I can draw the attention to the first section 4.1, and where there's an update on the website enhancement project. So that is progressing well in terms of planning and preparation for commencement of that project. The website is seen as a key enabler to the transformation of the organisation, both generally and for other reviews. So this will bring together work around technology, but also around design and content. So that is ready to proceed this month. The Copilot Accelerators, this is looking at the Copilot AI tool and what it might mean for the organisation in terms of productivity improvement for staff. And we're looking to build an accelerator programme for that to provide access to the tool for cohorts of staff, but to allow exploration of value and achieve some feedback to allow us to identify benefits going forward. 4.2 of the report gives a brief update in terms of governance, so that is all now in place for the review. Again, just to draw the attention, the review board that sits to oversee the review has a kind of plan to live the message, so anything that we do within the board should use tools, capabilities and functions that we're expecting and pushing out to the business. 4.3 talks about resourcing within the review, and can confirm that IT now have a team in place that pulls together a range of skills and expertise from across the service. Other areas to call out, 4.6, talking about the vision. So we are in the early throes of preparations to develop a new digital strategy in 2027, and that will take place over the next year or so. So we're just commencing that piece of work, and that will bring together feedback from both the organisation, elected members, the public and partners. The second last thing to bring to attention is around data quality. So the Council has been accepted onto the Scottish Government Digital Maturity Assessment Programme. We are in cohort 6 of that. We have 3 members of staff who are attending that. Has now commenced this month, and that programme runs for about 6 months and will help define our approach to data and its importance in underpinning the transformation. And the final item to bring to your attention is 4.9 around benefits tracking. So the review is now starting to identify and track benefits across the business systems and processes and productivity streams, and will be future updates will be brought back to future meetings of the forum. If I can take members back to section 2, the recommendations report, and this is the report to be noted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Murray. Can I ask if there are any questions on this item? I'm not seeing any questions, so can we agree to note the report? Indeed. Thank you very much. It leads on to item 8, which is the Customer Engagement Transformational Review, and this will be presented by Craig Ferguson. Craig.
Thank you, Chair. So the report provides the forum with an update in respect to the Customer Engagement Transformational Review. Starting with section 4, in terms of the process review and workshop activity, a review of the key processes. That involves a completion of an exercise to look at it as is, and the second stage involving design of the 2B. That's now been completed for 6 individual processes. Additional workshops also planned now for disabled parking and also change of address. What's been done so far? They've had a range of actions that can improve the process for the customer and also for the service, and work is underway with individual resources to review these actions. Importantly, these findings then feed into the customer experience strategy being developed and any supporting business cases. So, for example, the findings from the workshops may point to large-scale system solutions that could benefit many individual resource processes. On to the next page, at 4.5, as reported previously, discussions are taking place with one individual local authority. They use a conversational chatbot on the homepage of the website. And this chatbot provides a mechanism for customers to report an issue, for example, graffiti on a missed bin collection, and that has helped reduce the volume of calls that they've received. So work is now ongoing with our team internally to review how this kind of technology can be offered to customers in South Lanarkshire, considering the customer benefits, the resourcing implications attached, the technology considerations, potential drawbacks, and also the kind of cost implications. 4.6, an update in relation to customer surveys. These surveys went live in the middle of June, and there's an update there in terms of position as at the middle of July. We're just expecting final reports on the surveys by the close of business today, and then evaluation of those results will follow. And certainly we have seen some increases from the numbers quoted there, both in terms of the phone survey and also in relation to return from customers that have used the online survey. So importantly, these results will be used to inform the provision of services and the ongoing development of the customer services strategy. At 4.7, in relation to systems development, there are projects underway within housing, community and enterprise, and also social work. They continue, and they're expected to also deliver improvements within the customer engagement area. Work is ongoing with the resources with the expected benefits there in terms of improved processes, customer experience, and any potential efficiencies that may arise. At 4.9, we summarise the work in relation to review the capabilities and also limitations of customer-facing ITC systems. So IT have completed the first phase, in a detailed catalogue that lists all the technology applications and solutions used across the council. This catalogue then helps us understand what technology can and cannot do, in turn feeds into future business cases for change. In summary, I have 221 currently captured active applications, with further 7 in implementation, 77 hold personal identifiable information. Then with regards to capabilities in relation to customer engagement, we have 8 applications that provide web portal capability, 4 support workflow, and 8 can also manage payments. Moving on to the next page, in terms of the review of the website content, as I've advised previously, there are strong links between the website content, the look and feel, and also the technology that underpins it. Murray referred to in his previous paper around the progress being made in creating the separate review group and action plan to progress the review of the website, which is obviously a key feature in terms of encouraging further digital interaction with our customers across South Lanarkshire. Then just lastly there at 4.14, in terms of the positioning of customer services, we're reviewing the organisational structure we use to deliver customer services and looking at ways to improve customer service, resilience, and also delivery of efficiencies. In terms of next steps, the working group are continuing to progress the action plan for review. If I can refer the forum back to the recommendations and note the update on the transformation review be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Can I ask if there are any questions in this report? Not seen any questions. Can we agree to note the report? Thank you. There are no items of urgent business, so I will bring the meeting to a close. Thank you.